Good evening.
So I am here. You can see the beautiful western sky over Lake Champlain behind me. And I'm going to turn off my video now because I don't have enough bandwidth to keep it on for very long. So members of the committee, there's an agenda before you. Are there any changes needed to the agenda? And do any of you have any conflicts of interest for any agenda items?
Not me.
No conflicts for me.
None for me.
Awesome. Okay, well, if nothing is to be changed, then may I please have a motion to approve the agenda as submitted?
Motion to approve the agenda as submitted.
Second.
Motion by Ifyak Inyang, seconded by Kate Kelly. Any discussion? Any public comments? Member of the public, Aaron Foe.
Again, I just want to say how grateful we are for everybody who is participating in this. Your commitment is greatly appreciated. Thank you.
Okay. So no comments, no discussion, then go ahead and do a roll call vote, and I'll do it in the order that you guys appear. Chris?
Aye.
Kate?
Yes, I am here.
Do you approve the agenda as?
Yes, I do. I'm sorry. I was trying to figure out what I'm doing. Thank you. Yes, I approve the agenda. Thank you.
Of course. Ifyak?
Yes, aye.
Okay, and I abstain. The motion passes 3-0. Minutes, we have some minutes. I hope everyone had a chance to review them. Everything looked fine to me. Did anybody see any changes that needed to be made to the minutes?
No, I had nothing.
Now, Kate, that's
Not even
amazing all by
spelling.
itself.
I know.
was gonna say no
Well,
spelling
I'm
there,
going to be
grammar.
totally honest with you. I didn't read them until I just got home, which was like 15 minutes ago.
Okay.
It's, you know, life in the fast lane as usual. But I'm sure that they're perfect in every single way, as they so frequently are.
Okay, fantastic. Did the other two of you have any minutes issues?
No issues for me.
None for me.
Okay, everything looked good. There's one thing that I saw. Let me scroll through. Yeah, hold on. So I think I actually did say this. So it's on sort of the middle of page 2. And it says, Mayor Thompson stated that because of the redistricting considerations discussed by Town Attorney Sussman, the crossing of a ward near the railroad tracks needed to happen at Town Center or the K-Fritz Bridge. And just wanted to clarify that probably, at least technically, it could occur over the East-West Highway Bridge, because that is mode of transport that people can get, and you can walk across that bridge. So so the East-West Highway Bridge, as well as sort of Town Center at ground level and K-Fritz bridges are all 3 options. But I think I did say what's there. So the minutes don't need to be adjusted, but just wanted to make to clarify that point in this meeting.
Okay.
But other than that, I didn't see any issues. So if nobody, any comments from members of the public? Looks like no. So may I please have a motion to approve the minutes as submitted?
So moved.
Seconded.
Okay, motion by Kate Kelly, seconded by Ifyak Inyang. Hope I got that right. Any additional discussion of the minutes or public comments? Okay, I'll do a roll call vote and as best I can, because the order keeps shifting every time you guys speak. Chris?
Aye.
Kate?
Aye.
Ifyak?
Aye.
And I abstain. Motion passes 3-0-1. Okay, populations of existing wards based on the 2020 census. I will read these to you verbally, my current estimates, which I don't hope haven't changed since the last one. Ward 1 is 1,485. Ward 2. Oh, come on. Oh, right, I have the wrong tool here. Hold on. Ward 1, Ward 2 is 1,218. Ward 3 is 1,114. 113 and a half, but we won't argue about that, half a person. Ward 4 is 1,159. Ward 5 is 1,207. And Ward 6 is 1,175. So those are the my latest and greatest estimates based on the 2020 census. And I will just I'm going to take just a moment, if you will all humor me, which I hope you will, that the numbers for the population of the town of Riverdale Park are a little bit unusual. I don't know. I hope I can find this tab. I have 100 tabs open right now. So if you ask Google what the population is, then it gives you a number somewhere in the 7,200s. And that is the 2021 estimate. And it's somewhere around 7,250. But the population estimate based on April 1st, 2020, the actual date of the census, which is what we have to work from, is 7,353. And the number that we get from the state of Maryland is 7,358. And the reason that we get the 7,358, I believe, I haven't actually tracked down the 5-person discrepancy, but I believe that those 5 people are probably persons who are living here and who are currently incarcerated. And according to the Maryland state law, then they still officially live here for the purposes of redistricting. But 5 people is not a huge number. We're glad we don't have too many more people in that incarcerated. And so those are the numbers we're working for. And you can hold on for me to get to Excel. That means that our target is actually 1226. I think I said 1227 last time. And the high end of the acceptable range is 1287. And the low end is 1165. That's the plus or minus 5% that we can have that variation without any questions, and we have to sort of worry a little bit if we get beyond that. So those are my population estimates and population targets. Any discussion, questions?
Alan, you said it was Google says it's lower than the 2020 census, the 7,250, so around 100.
Yeah, and so does census. So census updates based, has the intermediate measures, and they have a 2021 estimate and the 2020 estimate, and it's my understanding that we're supposed to use the 2020 estimate.
I guess
And
it's surprising that it's less than. I mean, in between that time, well, actually, I'm just not sure when the apartments up at Riverdale opened. I mean, I was just would have expected population to increase, not decrease.
Yeah,
from 2021.
I have to agree with that, but the date for the second one is July 2021, and I don't remember exactly where Pilot House was in terms of occupancy at that point. It may have been that people were just starting to move in. Ifyak, do you remember?
It's Pilot House.
They were starting to move in June,
Yeah.
July of that year.
It was the summertime. I think what the cutoff was off, it was April. And I think it was like June, early July.
Of 2020 that they started moving in? Or
Yes.
20, okay. Okay, well, I don't know. I mean, these are the census estimates, and really the only one that we need to track is to make sure that we're redistricting based on the 2020 numbers, because that's the official estimate. So 7358, those are the numbers from the state. And as I said, we're targeting 1226 and change per ward. Taking a census is an imprecise science. I'll just say that. And I think census people do the best they can, but it's tough. Okay, any other questions or comments, or somebody want to make a motion under populations of existing wards?
Just real quick, the Ward 1 estimate is, did you say 1081?
It's not 1081, but hold on for a second. Let me regenerate that. It is 1485. So a large number above the acceptable limit, which I think is 1265. Yeah, sorry, 1287.
1287.
1287 is the upper comfortable limit, and the number in Ward 1, existing Ward 1 is 1485.
Okay. Got it.
So 200 extra people. And, you know, as we've said, we want to sort of target having Ward 1 being a little scarce on people, since we know there are more people than that now.
Yeah.
And we anticipate a lot more people in existing Ward 1. We've got 2 potential projects south of you, and we have 2 big apartment buildings in the station. So want to aim low there. Okay, any other questions, comments, or should we move on to discussion item 2, communities of interest?
Move on.
Okay, let's move on to item 2. Have you guys come up with any other communities of interest? I was sort of thinking and staring at the map that a possible community of interest were people who get flooded, but given the extent of our flooding problems, I'm not sure that we can really draw a ward that captures all of those people. Even 2 wards. Be tough to do that. So any other thoughts from you guys?
Not beyond our discussion last
Yeah, the only
time we met.
okay. Yeah, I guess the only one was, I know we talked about sort of the major apartment buildings in wards, I think it was 4 or 5, and there was mention of maybe we want to rethink those in terms of keeping all the garden style apartments together. What I don't remember is that, like, because I know one of the census blocks is like 1900 people. It's a big block,
Yeah.
but does it make sense to sort of keep similar styled homes in that area together, or is that way too many people?
Well, I mean, we have to split up that block somehow.
Yeah.
I think the number is actually closer to 2000. I think it's 1970, and like 1972 is the number that pops into my head, but that may not be correct. And you know, it's the high-rise apartments have always, so-called high-rise apartments, I mean, they're not huge, have always been in the same ward, but I actually have a map that split them that we can discuss under item 3. I did some interesting things on one of my maps with the apartments, sort of trying. First of all, there are a bunch of apartment buildings that sort of got rolled up into wards that are largely single-family homes, and so I said, well, why don't we just start and try to build as many that are mostly apartment buildings, and then let the single families come along at the end, sort of scoop them up at the end. And that's a very different looking map than many of the others we've had. But the I mean, do you have some thoughts on garden style versus so-called high rise as a reasonable way to do it?
No, I mean, in general, I'm not the biggest fan of sort of like, grouping by house type
Mhm.
across the town, but I do think in that particular area it might make sense. I know we talked about before, townhomes and sort of try to grouping townhomes together if that's realistically possible. But I was just sort of thinking if there are ways to sort of split that block up in a way that might make more sense. But I think it's probably best if we just wait until we talk about the actual maps.
Okay, that sounds reasonable. Chris and Kate, any thoughts?
I don't know. I know that the history of wards 5 and 6 have had less participation
Mm-hmm.
typically. And if there was a way that we could help the people in those wards to have more participation, then that would be a good thing. But I'm not sure that we have an answer with redistricting
no.
for that.
No, I mean that's a difficult problem, and
Boy, it sure is.
many years ago, the Ward 6 representative, shortly after I'd become mayor, the Ward 6 representative, not that shortly, 15 months in or so, the Ward 6 representative was evicted from his home and left
Yeah.
town, and
Right.
had to appoint a replacement.
Right.
And I must have talked to, this is Ward 6, and
Yeah.
I must have talked to like 8 or 10 people in Ward 6, and only 2 of them were interested at all. No
Yeah.
election. All they had to do was sign on the line, and they were on the council. And
Right.
only 2 of them were interested.
Yeah.
And that to me was surprising, because most of them were reliable voters in at least the state and national elections, if not and
Yeah.
most of them I talked to had at least voted some in the local elections, and yet they were still just unwilling to do
Yeah.
that. So I
Yeah,
think,
but we've had years, Alan, you remember this, where we'd have 15 voters or fewer even from
Mhm.
some of those in contested elections. There would be so few people. And I don't, this is not the way to make that work. But
Right.
I'm
Right. I mean,
thinking about it.
the way that we could, don't think this is a good idea, but the way that we could up participation on a ward by ward basis is, of course, to split up those communities, and put more politically active voters
Right.
inside of wards that included those. But I don't think that's
Well,
what the goal of redistricting is.
no, you run into the compact and contiguous problem right there.
Right. Well, compact and
So.
contiguous, but also, you're splitting up. We would be splitting up communities of interest. I
Right.
mean, the people who live in the high-rise apartment buildings and the garden apartments, for that matter,
Mhm.
don't take advantage of trash pickup by the town.
Right.
And so, that's not an issue for them, but they might be more concerned about on-street parking or collection of, emptying of town trash cans or something like that.
Right.
And so it's good to have or, enforcement of the multifamily regulations.
Right.
And so, so it seems like, there's not a redistricting solution to that problem.
No, I think you're right.
Have to
Sad
agree.
enough. Sad enough.
Yep. Okay, well, we can discuss communities of interest under item 3 too. Mr. Member of the Public, Foe, do you have any comments on communities of interest? Anything that you think there might be some?
Not really. I share the sentiment of Kate about participation in those wards. It's I don't know how to spur it. All that I know is that as a council, we represent even those that don't participate. And I think if you look at policies that we have enacted, they are represented well. So at least we can do that on that front as a council.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, let's move on to the exciting draft ward maps. And if Ryan will let me, I will seize control of the screen. And if my bandwidth will let me, I will seize control of the screen. People, please let me know if you are able to see my screen well. Once I do it, here we go. Let's see what happens. Can you see it?
Yes, so far. It says you started. There it
Yeah.
is.
Yeah, we can see it.
Yay.
Okay, so these are the existing wards. And just so you guys know what I'm doing, when I'm gonna have to ooch this window down a little bit. There's some controls. Let me see if I can make that hide. No, can't do it. Okay, so so I can click in a particular ward, and it will tell me how many people live in that. So those are where the numbers are coming from, is the 1218. And just to let you know what I'm staring at all the time, I'm going to turn on a few more layers. Those are each of those little yellow circles or red circles is a property within the ward. And if I turn those off so we can see the other things, then there's an underlying set of properties, which are the polygons that you can see there. And the streets are shown just so we all have navigational. And this is a really nice piece of software. I didn't know it existed when we started this process. I think I had it somewhat up and running when we had our last meeting, but I've gotten it really up and running, and I'm really glad to have it because it would have been a mess otherwise. So these are the streets, and you can see the water boundaries also. As I said, there are the 2010 wards. There's the funny little diagonal cut through the Riversdale property, for instance. And so my first attempt was to say, okay, suppose I wanted to have as few people move from one ward to another as I could, and I tried moving boundaries to make that work. So since the big problem, no insult intended to Ward 1, was the new population in Ward 1, then I just started figuring how can I move those boundaries into Ward 1 to reduce the number of people in Ward 1. And that gives us this map. So you can see, it's a little bit hard to see with the colors. Come to Papa. This is Ward 5, this is Ward 3, this is Ward 1, and it has a notch out of it. It used to go across and pick up a lot of houses on the other side. Now it goes in the other direction. The Ward 2 boundaries had to be drawn in in order to make that work, make the numbers work. The Ward 2 boundaries also came back across the river. Ward 3 picked up a lot of real estate from Ward 2 in order to make that work, though it still has its little extension across the river to grab that one building. And Ward 4 expanded into this area a bit to also pick up some numbers. And Ward 5 was untouched, and I think Ward 6 might have picked up a building, but I think it might also have just stayed as it was. So this is sort of the relatively minor number of wards flipping boundaries. And just so you can see where they were, again, this is the 2010, and that's the 2022 less disruptive, and I'll just flip back and forth. How long does it take for this to update for you guys? Is it like happening fairly fast?
Oh, it's right fast.
Great.
Yeah, instantly.
Okay, so you can see that the bound, I mean, the colors are changing. Sorry about that. Didn't have consistent colors here. Just wanted them to be different for the different wards. But the boundaries are not hugely shifting. It's mostly just in this area that that things are moving around. Want to discuss that, or do you want to see the other
Yeah.
two, and then we can discuss them all
Just-
at once?
Just real quick for I'm assuming for all of the for all the different versions, what's like the plus or minus to that kind of 1287 number? Or I see 1218 some on that. Maybe that's a particular ward.
1218 is the old one, so I can show you the counts here. No, that's sorry. I'm still not completely used to this piece of software. So let's start with Ward 1. That is not Ward 1. No. Okay, there's Ward 1, and that is 1228. So that is right on the money with this. Ward 2 is 1216, which is slightly low, but really it's about the same. Ward 3 is a little bit high, 1246. Ward 4 is 1284. That's sort of pushing the upper end of the acceptable range. Ward 5 is 1207, and which is fine. It's in the middle. And Ward 6 is 1175. So it's a bit low, but it's within the acceptable range. And I can generate tables of these at some point in the future. I just haven't done it yet. So this particular map, I spent a decent amount of time on and like made all the borders line up, but it took me a really long time. Like there's probably 5 or 6 hours worth of work into this. Wow. And that's because there's like excruciating detail to like make the river be just right. And I realized after doing this one that I didn't have the time and I wasn't going to do it just for these draft maps. And so the next ones are a lot rougher looking, and there may be a few little mistakes in population, but I was pretty careful to make sure that there weren't big ones. So, question?
Yes. Could you turn on the properties? You said you had the circles that show the different properties.
Yeah.
Can you turn on that layer, please?
There we go.
Gotcha. That helps me a lot, just from an understanding of, especially in Ward 2, towards the north end of Ward 2, how sparse, I guess, the
Right, and
density is.
those are all big properties, but they also have no population. So they're all this is the so-called Discovery District. This is the College Park Academy. This is the Flex Space USDA buildings right here. This is the American Center for Physics, and so they're all commercial buildings and nobody lives there. Whereas this row here is a little, just north of Tuckerman. This is 51st, and so all the people live in there live in this area. And these these are park properties over here. And even though Alan Thompson personally believes that there's some homeless in there, then census didn't count them. So
Good authority. Gotcha. No, I did.
Yeah.
Sorry, that just helps from a visual perspective for me, at least.
Okay. Do you want me to leave this on for the further future discussions, or you just want to see it temporarily?
I think that's good enough for me. We can turn it back on if we need to, but
Yeah, it's pretty fast to turn it on and off. Okay, let me try to get this to fill the screen. Okay, let's go ahead and move and look at the map that connects the current Ward 4 Silk Tree townhomes with the townhomes and the station. So there it is. And you can see, as I said, there are these little gaps in between, but there's nobody living in them. And I had to take this, I started out with an area up on top of just this area, and I had to keep extending it further south in order to get enough population to make it workable. And so this ward, and please don't, freak out about the numbers. We'll assign them later on. but it's a little bit high. Number is 1257. And so, but it's the other thing is that there's an apartment building right here that has a lot of people in it. And it's hard to make it work without pulling that in. I spent a couple of hours earlier today, trying to shift these boundaries around and make it a little more reasonable, and couldn't make it work except this way. And so, so the Ward 1 numbers are a little bit high, but all of the wards are within range. So this ward, whatever number we'll have, is also a little bit high. This, which is most of current Ward 1, except for the station, that's a little bit low, 1194. This one that's mostly coincident with current Ward 3 is again a little bit high. Ward 5 is same, and Ward 6 is also the same. I don't think the boundaries of those two shifted. So this is the only way that I could make it work. I tried several different things. I tried scooping this neighborhood up into this. I tried splitting this area and along Taylor. I'm not sure if I tried along 49th and pulling that in and seeing if that could work. And this was the only one that I could get the numbers and felt comfortable with the sort of neighborhood splits. But there are some possibilities that I discovered, and the last one that I didn't do exactly, I don't think I did the 49th, pulling that in to this ward, and whether that would allow something else to happen over here. I think that I was having a hard time doing something reasonable here if I pulled this block or that block in. But anyway, that's this one works. It's not ideal, but it works. Want to look at the last one, and then we can just discuss them all?
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay, here again, it's a rough one. And I'm going to zoom in on the apartments area. Again, it actually has, a lot of the northern boundary up there. Like I said, this one does split along 49th through that neighborhood. But this is sort of where the interesting stuff is going on. And I will flip between 2010. So 2010, and I'm going to actually turn the buildings on so we can, no, can't see them. Yeah, I thought I had building outlines on here. Oh wait, those are on this layer. Sorry, I know I'm making it impossible to see anything. Okay, so this building here is what at least used to be called Park Tanglewood. I may have got renamed recently. And this is the other big building that definitely got renamed. I'm sorry, I don't know the new name of it. That's on 54th. And I'll turn off those buildings now that you've seen them. And so that's basically all of Ward 5 in the 2010 wards. And then there's a building in this little tongue that goes with Ward 4 that has a decent number of units, maybe 50 units or something like that. And so keep your eye on all those boundaries there. So this is the new drawing. So one of the two buildings, the Park Tanglewood, catches up with an apartment building that's here on the other side of the river. And then there's this block, we discussed this block previously, that doesn't, at least to my knowledge, have any physical residents in it anymore. But the census has it with 35, and that sort of got the number up into a reasonable range. And so this apartment building got pulled in. There's an apartment building here that used to be in Ward 3. That was a little tongue of Ward 3 that stuck across. It has the Park Tanglewood in here, has that apartment building, and it has a decent sized apartment building right here as well. So I'm going to turn off the 2010 for the moment, so I'm not confused by the background colors. And so that is a new ward, and it's quite different than the current one. But it is, as I said, it's at least mostly apartments. There may be a couple of houses here and there, but it's almost entirely apartments. And then this ward, which has the other building that was in Ward 5 previously, and then the garden style apartments right here, and then there's a low-rise apartment at this point, which is maybe a two-story with a basement that has basement apartments in it. And that's a very compact ward, also entirely apartments. But again, the high-rise that was here, and the garden style and the low-rise apartment buildings, so different styles of apartment buildings. And so those are the two that I started with in that order. Started with this one, then did this one, and said, okay, now taking this section that needs to come in more or less as a group. I can't imagine splitting along Kenilworth or anything like that, and extending until I catch enough population. And that gave this ward. And then I started building everything else based on what was left past that. And so again, you have the split along 49th. This is a lot of existing Ward 3, but also some Ward 2. There's this extensive one that contains both of the northern townhome communities. And then there's this one that crosses over the railroad tracks at that location and catches up with the southern edge of town. And I'll turn on, won't be able to see the whole thing, but that's municipal boundary. And of course, we're going to have to fill in all the holes where I don't have it selected, but nobody's living in there. So the numbers are good from this. So that's my third one. So those are the three options. And all of these have a loom, the boundaries can be shifted up or down, and buildings taken in and out, houses taken in and out, if there are reasons to do so. Just to remind you of things that happened in 2010, then these houses that are on the side of 54th got pulled into Ward 2. These houses here got pulled into Ward 2 in order to represent, we thought the single families along here would be more fit better into Ward 2. I think this might have been an actual population adjustment. We just needed a few more people to get within the right range, and that the council thought that the people across 54th were communicating more with each other than these people communicating with their neighbors along Powhatan. So those are the sorts of adjustments that we can make to make it work, if need be, or if there's a reason to, if there's something wrong with one of these boundaries. But that's those are the three that I've come up with, and happy to discuss any of them. Any questions?
What's the population? So in this current version right now, what's the population for the new sort of top ward?
The one that's yellow at the top of the screen?
Yes.
That is 1237. Well, 1238, round up. So again, it's a little bit high. Something that might be reasonable to do, there's an small apartment building.
Yeah, I was thinking that's
right in there.
Something.
And that could be carved out and possibly put into this ward.
And that ward, the green ward is on the lower side?
Yeah, that one it's also high. I think I left the apartment building in this one because it wasn't. But again, we could extend this a little bit further in. There are a lot of houses along 48th here. 48th is sort of the facing, and so that's why I pulled those in. And I can actually turn on the visual there. You can see that like line of homes there. And so that's why I pulled them in. But it's, we could move these boundaries in some reasonable way in order to add them back into this and take them out of here, and we could move that into there. There's lots, like I said, little adjustments like that are easy.
Got it. So I actually, so of the three maps, I actually like this one the most. At first, I was a little hesitant with the idea of the how far that top boundary is from Route 1 to the townhomes all the way on the right hand side, but I really I'm a fan of sort of the new, I guess they're not really numbered, but the new, I guess, red ward, and how that sort of lines up. The I guess is what ward. What's traditionally the townhomes in the northern, the right hand side? Is that Ward 4?
Yeah, that's this area up here right now is Ward 4.
Yeah.
If you can see the hand.
Yeah, I see the hand. Yeah. I think if there's a way to have the top one lighter, to sort of like to account for the known growth that we're going to have, and whether that's that apartment building that you talked about right on that corner next to above East West Highway, or I don't know the difference between that boundary where on like 49th Street, or is that 49th Street?
Yeah, this is
Yeah.
49th right there.
Yeah, I don't know what, like moving it to the left, if that's like hundreds of homes.
One more block. That's probably, so this whole block is about a little bit over 500. This entire section right here. And there's more homes on this side. So I would guess that there's about 100 people in there, round numbers. And so if we moved that over one more block, then that would drop 100 people out of that ward. But let me verify this. Yeah, that we might be have to wiggle a little bit. So this ward, the blue ward, is currently a little low. It's 1191, and so if it picked up another 100, that would be 1290, which is just over the 5% limit. And we might be able to do a little bit of adjustment down here to get it within the 5, or we could just whistle and stare at the ceiling and hope that nobody is going to freak out about 5.03% high.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's I think it keeps a lot of, especially if we move the street over to, I guess I'm assuming that's 48th Street then. Then it keeps a lot of those houses, that sort of neighborhood, similar, like together. And it solves for the northern part, even though it seems wide, it's kind of rarely populated at all. I think you said that there may be some housing plan in the Discovery District at some point.
Yeah, right here. Wait, let me get this straight. Zoom in a little bit, try to. There's been some discussion of housing in here and possible infill housing in this area where there's mostly parking lot right now. But it's like nothing serious at all.
Yeah.
It's really just people shooting the breeze and saying, well, it would be interesting to activate this area if we did that, if we did this. There's nothing, no concrete discussions at all. It's just been, idle, would this meet the goals? Do we need to worry about putting this into planning documents, that sort of stuff? This possibility in there. So yeah, we can. So what I'm going to try to do is adjust this boundary as you suggested, and that can be one of the maps for future discussion. And I'll fix up these boundaries where there's a bunch of jagged edges and verify that the numbers are correct, that I haven't missed any houses or anything like that. But the thing is that the committee can, at least in principle, recommend multiple different maps, and so this could be one of them, and we could see. So I'm not hearing anyone who's particularly excited about this map. Oops. So so are there any? Would there be an interest in some adjustments here? Wait, is this the one I think? Yeah, this one is great. Any adjustments here that people would be interested in seeing or discussing, or should I just scrap this one and quit worrying about it? Chris, are you speaking? Because if so, I can't hear you.
No, I was telling my 6-year-old to leave me alone for a minute. So I was just listening to the conversation, and I'm just trying to keep in my head, 10 years from now. I'm a little hesitant. I know these are all suggestions, so obviously anything is fluid, but just want to keep in mind what happens in 10 years from now to have. I think personally, I wouldn't want to see having multiple major shifts in ward boundaries from 2 consecutive cycles. And I think it's going to be very hard in 10 years to not have a major move once, what goes on in Riverdale Park keeps on, or the station keeps on going, plus anything else that's in Wharton, or the Whirling properties there too. So this one thing keep in mind is how it impacts the next cycle as well, which we know is going to have something to it too.
Yeah, I mean, I'm assuming the team, and this is a big assumption maybe, assuming that the apartments in the station actually get built, the next 2 apartments, then there's likely to be multiple wards up there. I mean, those are the huge number of housing units that are going to be going in up there. And I mean, I think the grand total housing units in the station, as from the rezoning agreement, was in the mid 900s, like 960, 970, somewhere in that range. And so, that's 1,800 people right there. And so it's maybe even more, maybe 2,000. And so there could be easily more than one ward in Riverdale Park Station, or the station, whatever they're calling it at that point.
Alan, do you know what I missed the meeting last week about the new Jamal Whirling development? Is there a ballpark about density over there?
Yeah, I'm just going to zoom in on this area here. Okay. Purely by coincidence, and really it is purely by coincidence, then that development is right here.
Mm-hmm.
And so it would be in this ward that's not part of,
it would be in,
the one that's mostly Ward 1.
Yeah.
And the number of
although it's part of Ward 1 now, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So
okay.
So there's the current map again. It's right there.
Okay. Right. Yeah. Sorry. Thank you.
No, it's fine. And they're guessing. They haven't nailed down a number, but they're saying roughly 90 units in the buildings, and so that's 200 new residents.
200
would be in there. I assume you weren't at the work session or at the MUTC meeting,
No,
but there's a proposal from another developer to redevelop the property down here where the Chambers Funeral Home is and put in a similar number of apartments there.
wow,
So round numbers, 100.
wow,
So, you know, if either or both of those happens, then yeah, there's going to be some major shifts.
yeah, wow,
And so, you know, we have 3 potential developments just in this overall area.
right,
One of them, which, you know, has been promised, which is the 2 big apartment buildings in the station,
right,
and then this one and this one, and you know, it's a huge population shift for that area.
And it's not including the known apartment building that's already here in the station. That's not counted in the numbers.
Right. And I don't remember the number of units that are there, but maybe 160. Does that sound about right?
No,
I
I
have
think
that
it's
number.
like I think it's like 220 or something like that. 223 is the number that sticks
Okay.
out.
Okay.
So how much should we be thinking, or are we even allowed to, about what happens in the next cycle? Or is our sole responsibility to make it work this time?
Well, we have to make it work.
Yeah,
But there are multiple ways to make it
Right.
work, and if we make it work in a way that is aiming at the future, as we did, I mean, in 2010, we did that. You know, we said
Yeah.
that we were anticipating population increases in Ward 1, and so we scraped population about as low as we could and still had a reasonable looking map.
yeah,
In order to have that buffer for the expected incoming population. And, you know, we can do the same thing. We can really, you know, look hard at, and if Yaak, you know, is asking to do that when he wanted me to move the boundary from here
Yeah,
to here, from
right.
49th to 48th, then that, you know, shaves down the population. I'm going to look at a few other boundaries and see if we can perhaps even like take it down right to the limit. But it's a problem. You know, we have the numbers that we have to hit now, and we know that there's some people who are living there even now who weren't counted, and so we can take that into account in discussions and decisions, but we have to meet the targets.
Yeah,
I think my initial thought coming into this was knowing that, you know, we could take that approach or keep it down to a reasonable low, you know, hit the high, you know, 5% and the low 5% targets for, you know, where we had growth and needed to take from. But I don't know if that really is going to be that necessary. Just this go around, knowing it's not like we're talking about, I mean, the spread, we're talking about 50, 60 people between cheating up and down one way or the other, not, you know, 2,000.
Well, you know, when you if you go the full range from the top end to the low end, it's like 120 people in a ward. That's the amount of wiggle room we have.
Right, but we can expect that we're probably already 400 people short in the station right now. So again, if we, I think just my initial guess with this, if we kept, you know, existing Ward 1 low and then picked it up with Ward 2, then, you know, maybe we could get those, that would be a little bit more even the next time. But I think that just, even with what we know is there, that probably isn't going to be feasible. Plus then all the other potentials that would be thrown in there too. But
do we know the if we wanted to add a ward, and so the numbers go from splitting it 6 ways to 7 ways, does that influence the over under? Like my thought process without doing any of the math is, would 7 wards instead of 6 wards on the low end, and then trying to make the Riverdale, like the station, the smallest of the 7 wards, does that solve anything, or is that, not really doing much?
So I have this layer. Let me turn it on for a second. I think I sent you guys a map of this. So this tile is the station.
Mm-hmm.
And so we can go ahead. Let me see if I can deselect that. Yes, there we go. We can see what the population there. I only select the correct tool. So the population there is 250. That's the official census number in there. There's actually this line of single families is included in the block. The block sort of goes down and around like that. Maybe down Rhode Island to town center, but anyway, there's a bunch of houses on the north side of Tuckerman that are included in the census block, but this is like 250 people. And with 7 wards, you're still looking at a little bit over 1,000 per ward. So it's not close.
And
If
I
you
don't,
had-
go ahead.
go ahead.
I'm sorry, Alan. Well, I'm not in favor of an odd number of wards. I think that it's better to have in general. So if we're talking about splitting wards, maybe we should, if we want to create one, we would talk about creating 2.
Okay.
Can I ask, Kate, why you are not in favor of an odd number of wards?
I think because of the way that people work together, it's better to have a system where you have a tie-breaking possibility. And that
Okay.
way, just in general. And then Alan could stay mayor for life and break a lot of ties forever and ever. Or maybe we'll see Aaron Folk coming up large.
So
But
Aaron's been listening here. Do we want to bring one member of the public?
I'd be interested to hear what the civics teacher has to say.
I support Alan, Mayor.
You just support me for mayor for life.
Listen, I love Alan as my council member. I love Alan as my mayor. I'm conflicted on a lot of these, and and Alan, you can guide me through this. I view this through the lens of a ward that I represent. So I feel conflicted about participating in the dialogue because I don't want to sway the committee in any way, shape, or form that way. So if I'm stepping into territory that you're not happy with or do not want, please stop me at any given moment. I honestly don't know. I really can't. There's a lot of change in Ward 2, and that for some reason that's unsettling to me. I don't know if that's valid. I feel like I base it on my experience as a council member and not on what's best for the community. You know what I mean? Like I view some of these wards, like, so I look at this and my first thought is that's myself and Councilman Lingua. Is that correct, Alan? Hello?
Maybe I hear you.
Is no one else here? And no one else is responding.
No, I hear you.
I can hear you, but I don't hear Alan.
That's so members of the committee, my concern is that I'm viewing this through the inappropriate lens of how it impacts me and not the community. Does that make sense to you, Kate?
This is Maryland. You're allowed to gerrymander.
Yeah. My immediate thought to any of these wards is like, I lose Alan or I lose Chris.
Right.
And
Mhm.
and that's biased, and I don't want that. I'll have an opportunity to discuss these maps
Yeah.
at a council level.
Yeah.
So it's hard for me to participate in this dialogue.
No, I understand.
Well, Aaron, one piece of opportunity that you have over the years is to knock on a fair number of doors throughout the town.
Yeah.
I mean, so I haven't walked around the entire town as much as you or Alan or probably, a lot of people here, but are there any boundaries, just talking about not necessarily communities of interest, but boundaries that are kind of established just from the people that you've talked to? I mean, you've mainly stayed in probably Ward 2, but
I do predominantly stay in Ward 2, and the people that I get to meet outside of that, Chris, are you guys that participate like this.
right. But so as you're walking around, I mean, are there any boundaries that you kind of, as you're moseying around Ward 2, that just didn't seem quite natural, or like groups of people that you were going from house to house that you then were like, just didn't seem to quite line up from a.
I mean, if I'm being honest there, Chris, I feel like our houses, I feel like south of East West Highway, the east kind of divides that community. And I feel like Alan is focused a lot in that, in that particular area. It's weird that for me, I have trouble because these, like a lot of these divides are on 48th. So like my house is the first house in a ward. Communities of interest. I mean, I think our apartment complexes, I think the Riverdale Park Station, I think those new developments are going to be significant. Mara, do you want to participate in the dialogue about these? What are your thoughts?
I'm participating in bedtime right now.
Wow.
He's also standing behind the computer giving me advice, and I don't know. I have always loved representing the school. I feel like that is a community of interest, is where we educate our children. So those are my thoughts right now. And like I said, I want to really, really ensure that I am not impacting the work of the committee, because I will have a voice in approving these. So hold on a second, guys. I'm sorry. Levon wants a book read. So that's.
Well, who can blame him? Right?
Have you heard this, Mayor Thompson? You haven't been communicating. We thought you were offline.
So I dropped off for a while, but got back during some of it.
No, they're just asking my thoughts on this, and I said I don't want to get. We've talked about my participation in these things. I will have a voice, and I have difficulty viewing this through any other lens than how it impacts.
Yeah. So I hope.
So
my video,
that's my.
I hope my audio is coming through a little bit clearer. So just focusing on Ward 2, since I did represent it for many years, and the boundaries didn't shift very much at the last one. The community on the other side of the Anacostia for most of Ward 2 does feel a little bit different. I would say it's not a big deal, but they definitely, it's isolated. It's on the other side of a river, and so people aren't as engaged with people on the opposite sides of the river. East-West Highway is also a big barrier, as Aaron mentioned. Other than that, no. I mean, I think the boundaries are pretty good. And so, there's sort of, I guess I would say there's sort of 3 sub-wards in Ward 2. And you need to be sure that you're representing all 3 of them, but it's not that there's anything that's ridiculously wrong. It's just there's some different issues in the different areas. Okay. Do you want me to try to share screen and get back on again, or?
Yeah.
Okay. let me try to do that, and let's keep our fingers crossed that my bandwidth stays alive. Can you see it?
It's coming along, but it's not. There you go.
Okay.
Right there.
So, so we've discussed the this one a fair amount, and IFIOC can definitely do the adjustment that IFIOC asked for and clean it up. This one, which is not a huge difference for Ward 2, certainly. It's a big difference for Wards 1 and 4, or for the station and Ward 4. And Ward 3 has some significant shifts there also.
So, Mr. Mayor.
Yes.
So if I'm looking at this right, like, and this is what I was bringing up to the committee, that's 49th Avenue, where the shift between Ward 1 and 2 is, right? So my house would be the first house.
48th, but yeah.
48th, yeah, sorry. So
Yep,
I would still be in Ward 2 in this map.
You would still be in whatever number this ward has here.
Yeah, yeah.
Sort of, I don't know what color that is. What color would you say it is? I don't know. Anyway, but yeah, that
light green.
Here, I'll select it to make it painfully obvious which one it is. It'll be bright yellow then. So yeah, that ward, then your house is right there. So you would again be living on the boundary.
And that goes to Riversdale and behind Riversdale. Is that Oglethorpe?
Yes, that is Oglethorpe right there.
Okay.
So right now, Ward 2, there's this diagonal cut, and this is in Ward 2. And I think that this boundary is the same. Yeah, that's no. Is that right? Well, I guess, I could actually just turn on the map and we could see. Yeah, so you actually have your street is in Ward 2. So it's that's the split block. So you're not the first one in the current maps, but in this map you would be the first one in the ward. And there's a significant apartment building right there. It's not a huge one. It's sort of a maybe 10 unit building. And so we could conceivably, move the edge of that ward back, pick up the single families and cut it off next to that apartment building. It probably wouldn't make a difference, but that's, a detail.
The total of 6 wards is part of the town charter. Is that just been since the inception of the town's been 6?
I won't say since the inception of the town, but certainly the almost 30 years I've been here, it's been 6.
Yeah, the current charter, right? Yeah.
Gotcha.
When did you move here, Kate? If you don't mind.
We bought the house that we're in now in 1985.
Okay.
But I lived over across the street from Riversdale on 47th Avenue when I was in college. So I have been here since Edna Wade was a force to be reckoned with.
Wow. And there were 6 wards back then?
There have been 6 wards as far as I know. Forever.
Okay.
I don't know. I mean, if we can actually find the pieces of paper, we could check it out.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know if, Alan, if you were still with us when we were talking about odd and even numbers of wards.
That was about where I lost it.
Yeah.
Lost my connection for a couple of minutes.
Well, just to bring you up to, what I was saying is that I'm not in favor of an odd number of wards.
Yeah, I heard that, and
Okay.
someone nominated me to be mayor for life.
Yeah. Okay. So you've heard everything you need to know about that. What would happen if what would happen if in the new yellow area, if the blue bit there, that sort of flap was incorporated. Yes, that's the one. Was incorporated there. What would that do to the, I've lost track of what the numbers are for all of these. I'm sorry. I'm
No, it's fine.
having a hard time.
So we can actually pull them right up. So hold on a second. I have to get all the tools just right. So current, this future ward, the blue ward there, is a little bit low. It's 1194. And
Okay.
so if we carved this
Oh,
out,
so
then it
then-
would probably fall below the limit.
Okay.
We might be able to carve a block out here,
Yeah.
and it would still be, holding on by its
Right.
fingernails to the
Just
right
by a
numbers.
flap. Yeah. Okay.
And
Okay.
and of course, because we have to have the crossing somewhere in this somewhere in the
Right.
general area of town center, then we have to be careful.
Right. I understand. It's hard when you can't see the street names, for me.
Yeah, and I could probably get them in there, but
Oh,
that'd
for
be
Pete's
hard,
sake.
hard to see it.
Yeah, no, not worth it. Not worth the energy.
By the high-rise apartments, the red and purplish.
Mhm.
I guess is that
Want me to
not that
zoom
it's
in on that
too-
area?
not that it's too awkward, but is there a reason why that purple that's right to the above the apartments there wouldn't able to be brought into the two greens?
So there's a apartment building right here that has, I believe, around 50 units. And so it was important for bringing the numbers up here. The dark green ward is close enough to its limit that bringing that apartment building into it wouldn't work. And so if you wanted to try to basically extend the pink ward into this area, pick up more single families, and then extend the green ward to pick up all of that, that's a possibility. But it would, still look a little bit awkward. It's the hard quanta, it's like the chunk of each apartment building is hard to deal with. This thing right here, which my dear spouse, who has to listen to me drone on and on about this redistricting all the time, she said, "What's that? That looks bad." And I was like, "That's an apartment building. And if we have a boundary anywhere near here, then it's going to look bad one way or the other. Either we have an intrusion of this ward going up, or we have an intrusion of this ward going down. So the boundaries in this general area, we're in trouble." And the only one that, sorry, wrong one, that we have that doesn't have that problem is this. And it has its own issues in that area. Because, again, this is reaching across to grab another apartment building to give it the numbers that it needs here.
My issue with the previous one that you showed is when we start talking about, like, we talked about in the current Ward 2, how, on the other side of the river, it's a little different. Like, this has the station also with people who are not only south of East West Highway, but also east of like Kenilworth Avenue.
Mm-hmm.
And that seems like,
yep. Now, I wasn't very happy with this map, but it worked. And I put enough time into it that I was going to show it to you. But no, this one, I promised you this swath, and so I delivered. And this was my first shot at it, and I wasn't very happy. And but this one sort of preserves this, major chunk of Ward 1 in its current configuration. The Ward 2 isn't shifted by too much. Ward 3, except for this bit, isn't shifted too much. And so I thought I'd share it. But the one where I started with the apartment buildings, it's a much more radical shift. I mean, there are hundreds of people down here who are currently in Ward 3 that would be in sharing a ward with the other side of the tracks. And so, that there are issues with all, there's no ideal solution. It's just a matter of what we think is the best that meets the requirements.
Yeah, I do. I mean, going back to what Aaron kind of mentioned, that do think, I guess personally, that the natural split between the community is more north-south, I guess, driven by east-west highway more than the railroad tracks, other than maybe the northwest part of town, like where Tuckerman, and then that portion of town, I feel like it's a little more isolated. The town's relatively dense. Like we have a fair amount of population density, except for that real north, like the district, or the far
Discovery
northern
District.
portion
Yes.
that the Discovery District area. I mean, just that amount of mass of land just kind of makes it look awkward, but it really doesn't capture. There's really, I don't see there's any other way to do it, just because it's so not dense, other than up in the top, the east corner. I don't know. I feel like, especially, I don't know, not necessarily this go around, but next go around, I feel like splitting up number of districts or increasing the number of district or wards would be a viable solution to try and deal with some of this. But I really like
So,
that map. Love the little dots.
yeah, I have to say that, it's been a lot of fun to play with this technology. It's and I would never have been able to do the last two maps without this tool. And the price tag is right; it's free. I was able to download it for free and get all the data for free.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of data. I mean, I'll zoom out and show you all the street info and water features that are there.
Easy on the bandwidth now. We don't want to lose you again.
Yeah, all of Vermont just crashes.
So
Wow. Yeah.
And is this a federal government product that you're using here? It's
no,
pretty good.
well, some of the data, I think I tried to
Feed in from the census.
Yeah, so census has the blocks, which can't see them very well, but they're there. Most of it came from the Maryland National Capital Planning. They have a huge set of data that's available.
That's fabulous. That must be why it costs so much to have them in our world. That's a good thing.
Yep.
That's
so
that's good. I'm not against that.
Yep, and as a matter of fact, I should probably submit updated maps because I'm supposed to credit them on any products anything I make that uses their data. So thank you for asking.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah,
it's not. I mean, it's related, but the Riverdale Park Station, you said, is one census block currently.
Yeah.
Is there a way? Because again, we have what we have at this point, but for 2030, is there a way to request that gets broken up into a little more?
There is, and I have started that process, and it's in my inbox. But of course, I'm not going to really start doing it for another like 3 or 4 years. Probably they're still recovering from the 2020 census, but I intend to make sure that there are a bunch of blocks up there. Make this easier.
Right.
Okay. Almost every street should have a block, census block associated with it, every physical block. Because we're going to need that in 2030 if everything gets built up. And I wish that there was some way to do that with this block. And I think we should have, here, I'll turn off this, and we can turn off the roads. You can still sort of see it. So yeah, this census block right here is just too big, and we need to chop it up.
Yeah.
And the thing is that in Riverdale Park Station, there are streets that you can say, yeah, split the boundaries on the streets, which is what they like to do. Yeah, you can see right. I don't know if you can see it or not, but there's 1972
Yeah.
housing units in there, or population.
Right.
And so we have to find some reason to say split this up into 3 or 4 different blocks at least.
Yeah. There's a lot to do.
Okay, the one other map we haven't really discussed is this one. Let me turn the roads back on. Which was sort of the minimal shifting boundaries. Should I continue to develop this one? Does anyone see any modest changes here that would make you happier, or is this not interesting to anybody?
It's not really interesting to me. I think if we're going to do it, we should probably be. I think my opinion is the less disruptive map doesn't account for the known changes that we know is going to happen, even in the short term, or like what adjustments to cut off. Not even thinking sort of long term potential stuff. So I'm not necessarily in favor of it.
Okay.
I think I disagree, because I agree that it does not account for any of the future items, but I don't know if that's necessarily our charter at this point, is to address what's going to happen in the future, knowing that something will happen in 2030, and whatever we do here in 2020 with the 2020 data may not be correct, and we're forecasting what we think might happen, and then when we actually have the numbers, that might not actually be accurate. So that's my personal hesitation with going with a full sale change, is that, again, we're going to make a big shift and then do the same thing again in 10 years, which, again, that seems a little too tight to have back-to-back changes like that whenever we don't really know what we're going to be doing in 2030. We just know it's something.
So something that I could do to reflect a little bit is extend boundaries here, because the number in Ward 1 right now is right at the target, and I could scoop it low by extending some of these boundaries, if that would make it more interesting.
It doesn't for me. I think there's, I think there's an assumption that what we have right now makes sense. I don't necessarily know that the current ward structure makes sense, and just tweaking it slightly is better than a change. I think Ward, was it 4? That's this light green one.
Yeah, this is Ward 4.
Yeah, I think
well,
4,
assume it's mostly Ward 4 right now.
Yeah, that's right. The light green one on the right hand side, and the apartment buildings and sort of how that's handled. I understand, Chris. I understand the point that you're making, and it's fair. Of things will change, and realistically, it may change every 10 years if the town keeps growing at this rate and major development happens. But
well, the nice thing about what we've been asked to do is not make the decision, though, right? That's for our elected officials. So there's no issue with providing. I think it's beneficial to provide, here's where we're scooching things around, plus also the rethink. So I agree that probably the map that started with the apartments would be, if we're going to try and present more than one option.
This one?
My opinion would be, yeah, correct. To provide.
What's that one called? I'm sorry, what's that one is called?
This one is called Start Apartments, and that
Start.
was,
Okay,
I thought it was
Thank
going to be easy to rename these, but it's not. So that's, you guys get my working names.
okay, no, that's fine, just so that I know what I'm thinking about here. Okay,
Yeah, but I think
Okay.
from the committee, it's beneficial to present different options that then the council can weigh on, and
Oh, I
again,
agree.
it's their decision to make the call anyway, but I think this does provide that, you know, if this is not where we want to be, or this is where we could go.
It's
between these
it's
two.
one option, and I was looking, to provide some really different options, not just one option with little tweaks on it. And this is a very different option. It's a very different starting point and way of moving.
Mhm.
So, Kate, do you? So I'm just really want to. I have not heard anyone who thinks that this is worth moving forward. Does anyone think this is moving forward?
which one is that? What's that called?
This one
That is
is called, I call it
The
Northern
northern
Swath.
swath.
So this is my
Okay.
first attempt to have something like
And
I
that
promised
Right, that takes
at the
the
last meeting.
station and curves all the way around and then up to Silk Tree Drive and all that, right?
Yep.
That's the,
Right,
that's
but
the
it
organizing
also
principle there.
but it also picks up these neighborhoods down here
there,
that
right.
are very different from either of those. But
Yeah.
that they're already in the same ward as Silk Tree right now.
Right,
And it's just
so it would, yeah, so, okay, so I see what was going on with that one. I don't know. My first reaction to this was not unlike Chris's, and that is I thought that the one that's a little bit closer to what we have now seemed workable and fair, but I don't. I mean, clearly we can't. I have these maps labeled 1, 2, 3, and 4, and 1 is the current
Kate,
ward map.
I'm losing. I don't know if one
Oh,
of my
I'm
kids decided
sorry.
to start. No, it's fine. I'm just wondering if one of my kids started watching YouTube or something. But the is this something that I should continue to work on? And you might, the committee might want to move it forward, or or you think the others are better candidates?
I think the only thing I like better about this map relative to Start Apartments is how just north of the high-rise apartments is treated as more of a block rather than I think that's the only awkward part about the Start Apartments is how it's a long, narrow reach.
Yeah.
Horizontally. I think
Yep.
this the northern swath block in and around the high rises captures that a little bit better rather than
Okay.
more of a
Well,
long, narrow block.
Yeah, I'll just zoom in on that area and discuss it a little bit. So, sorry, I wish these tools were a little bit matched my brain a little bit better. So this water here is actually a serious barrier. So it's a very deep concrete lined ditch, very wide. Occasionally a tree will fall across it and somebody could conceivably walk from one backyard across it, but it's a real barrier. And so people to the north of it, up in this area, really don't interact over their back fences with the people on River. This is Riverdale Road, by the way, right here. And so that's just something that's worth mentioning. But I would say that the houses in here, and well, the issues that the people who live in these houses face and the people who live in these houses face are similar. And there's just a lot of sort of shared political interest between those two communities. So So I'm trying to remember what happened. Yeah, that one, this one sort of chopped up that area there. And the current map, you know, slices and dices that area also in a similar way.
Can you pull up the start apartments there?
Sure.
Yeah, that's okay. So I guess none of, I mean, I understood about that boundary there, but I guess none of the three really address that as a physical barrier.
Right.
Okay.
And just to remind everybody, there are sort of 4 single family houses here that also share issues with this whole neighborhood. And so I've always thought that that they would be completely ignored if they got pulled into the apartment buildings that basically surround them in 2 directions.
Yeah, you're probably
No,
right about
I
that.
think that's a fair, yeah, that's
Yeah.
So does anybody want to keep the northern swath? Or should I'd really love to drop at least one.
Well, I think that would be my
this one
first
this
cut
one was the
too.
one. Okay. I heard Ifiok, you know, express concerns about pulling this in. And so that's 2 out of 3. And Chris, unless you want to defend it, then I'll drop it and we can move on to another one.
no, yeah, I mean, as long that was just the only piece of this that I thought would be worth exploring would just be in and around. And I know the apartments are just difficult, as you explained earlier. So
Mhm.
that's the only piece of this that I thought was beneficial relative to the other ones. So I mean, a wholesale needing to keep this one, no, I don't think so. But something to be learned from of this one that could be applied to.
Okay. Well,
at
I'm
least
not
start apartments.
I'm not going to throw any of this data away, so don't worry about
Mm.
that. You know, we can always dredge
Sure.
this back up. And I guess one other question that I have for everybody on the committee is there something else you want to see that I should, you know, that having seen these maps and the possibilities, is there something else that I should explore that you think maybe I didn't?
The only thing I think that's left is, you know, Chris mentioned additional wards, and if we're at 8 wards instead of an odd number of 7. I know we didn't talk about consolidating wards and going to 4 wards, but I don't know if, I guess as you think through, if there are like, what would 8 wards look like? Yeah, I'm not exactly sure. You said the number would be closer to what, 900 or so, or maybe less than that.
Yeah, it would be a little bit over 900 with 8 wards.
Yeah. So I'm not sure, you know, if looking like considering like the existing ones, like if the station and what's, you know, south of it on the same side as the train tracks, like I don't know if that is 900 or not.
That's a number that I can give you fairly quickly. Trying to get all the tools in place here.
I feel like at this point, if we go to 8 wards to having to get within 900, that might address like one portion or help in one place, but I feel like it would probably hurt in a couple other blocks that aren't very easily split.
So this, hold on a second, please. This block, let's get in the right. There's so much to get just right here. This block that's in yellow now has 300, just shy of 350. So 350 plus 250 is still pretty shy of the 900 for a ward. It's not within distance.
Okay, that's fair. I think it's Chris, you bring up a great point of like, there might be a way to like tweak around and get that part, but then that probably destroys the apartment buildings, right? Unless each one is like 900 or so, that you can have one building be one ward in and of itself. And I don't know if that's realistic or not.
I think that census
Each of,
block itself was 1900, right? So,
yeah,
you know, it would be that
and
basically 2 wards just for that one census block.
the, you know, the existing ward there is approximately the right number. I think it's maybe a dozen shy of the ideal. And there are 2 buildings. They have roughly the same number of units in them within, I think one is 193 and one is 197. It's some split like that. They're very close to each other. And so each one has, you know, according to my distribution of population, each of them has about 600 people in it. And so they can't each have a ward to themselves unless we like really, we went full Hyattsville and like got a council of 10.
Right.
You don't have a big enough room.
Yeah, the trickle down would be rough. What does, and this is me just not really understanding it probably, what does an at-large council member look like, or how does that, how would that play into this
So
situation?
So that was something that was very briefly discussed. I think it was discussed more maybe in 2000 than in 2010, but I think it might have been at least been mentioned in 2010. Is that they're just elected town-wide, and the you know, by chopping it down to 3 geographic wards, then of course it makes it a little bit easier to slide the boundaries around and make it work. You have more wiggle room there, but you end up with having the at-larges elected based on the participation of each geographic area. And so currently in most, at least in most of the elections, then wards 1, 2, and 3 are responsible for almost all of the votes. And so basically just allow wards 1, 2, and 3 to pick 3 extra council members, or the residents of those wards to pick 3 extra council members. And so do you want to do that? You know, you can do a 4, if you wanted to stick with 6 wards, you could do a 4-2 split. If you wanted to go to 4 representatives, 4 wards, or you could have 3 geographic wards and 1 at large. You know, there's all sorts of things you can do.
Sure, gotcha.
But that's
Okay,
not
I'm going
something,
to,
that's not
I'm going to
the,
ditch the northern swath.
yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead, Kate. I was going to say I'm going to ditch.
I was going to
ditch
say
the
about
north-
the at-large business, that's not anything that we would have anything to say. That would require a charter amendment, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
But you know, you guys could recommend that. You could
Well,
say,
well.
you know, we think that the current constraints put into place, that it would be better if there was at least 1 at large, and we could recommend, you know, 3 geographic wards and 1 at large, or however you wanted to split it. Then, you know, that's legit. It's a legit thing for you guys to recommend to the council. But we're short on time for a charter amendment.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's right.
Yeah. Yeah, I was going to say that, like, having an ideal world, we have this is a slight change, a more drastic change, and then adding or subtracting wards. But if that's not plausible, then maybe we can remove from consideration.
Well, I think based on our last talk is after this meeting, the plan was to go to have a public, get public involvement from here.
Yeah.
Is that where we then? I think
thought that
having
was
the
what we said.
2, I think the start apartments map and the less disruptive map, and I'm taking that for public consideration, I think that's a good next step. I think it allows people to see what the community thinks of changing versus, maintaining status quo
Okay.
more or less.
And
Yeah.
I'll adjust this boundary as Ipiok suggested to make the numbers even out a little bit better.
Yeah, that seems like a really good idea.
Okay, well, why don't I clean up this map, because boy, does it have a bunch of ugliness in it, but make it better, and that will be how we will go forward. And
I think a
And
good glass of red wine will help you there, right, Alan?
I have an open bottle already, but I'm hoping to get some food into myself. Okay, I'm gonna quit sharing screen and let Brian. Is Brian still here? Yeah, there he is. So Brian can bring the agenda back up. Hey, before we move on, Aaron, as a member of the public, did you have any comments on this future direction? Sound reasonable to you?
It absolutely does. Yeah, I think you guys have done some tremendous work. It's all a little bit confusing to me. That's why I like being a silent observer and just learning. But I think, you're talking next steps, introducing maps to public consumption.
Yeah, I mean, the public was invited to this meeting.
Hey, I've been speaking to imaginary audiences for 6 years now, so I'm used to that. No, but I think that's a good next step.
Okay.
I hope that council is more attentive to what's going on here. I feel like that would be a next good step too, to just be introduced, start focusing on talking points, and that public dialogue that we're going to be having. December, is this when you're hoping for dialogue in front of council?
Yeah, I think that presenting an initial, couple of possible maps and discussing where it came from, and the December, either the November work session, maybe the December work session.
Yeah,
because I think there's still plenty of time at that point.
I think that's remarkable. And the only complaint that I have, Chris, is Vermont's not red wine territory. Vermont is IPA territory. There's some incredible beers, and you're going to swing and a miss if you're just going red wine while you're up there.
Well, the man's on vacation, so he can do what he wants.
I brought a bottle of red up here just because I wasn't sure, when I was going to get there, but I'm going to be sampling some of the local stuff.
Yeah, we always travel with an empty cooler that we fill up when we're up there to bring back.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so maybe this is sort of beyond the discussion of the committee, but I may flash the two maps that we've done at the next council meeting to say, these are what's going to be discussed later in October or something close to these, and maybe that'll spark a little bit more interest and attendance by people to see that there's some possible big changes up in the air. Okay, so our next meeting, we already scheduled, I can't remember what it is, October 19th, maybe, at 7:30 that time.
Okay.
So unless we have anything else to discuss, then I'm going to go and try to find some food.
That sounds like a great idea. Alan, thank you very, very much for doing all
Thank
this.
you, Alan.
Good night, Irene.
Okay, so can I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Kate Kelly, seconded by Chris Fike, not discussed nor debated. I'll do a roll call vote. Kate?
Aye.
Ifiok?
Aye.
Chris?
Aye.
And I abstain. We are adjourned with a 3-0-1 vote in favor.
Thanks, everybody.
See all you guys soon. And
Thank you.
the PDFs should be available in your inbox if you want to look at the maps a little bit closer.
Terrific. Thank you very much.
Thank
course.
you, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye-bye.